Hi guys! So, I know I said I wouldn't film like this again until I moved because this setup isn't ideal, but I also feel like every time I film, it's either right after I get a haircut or right before I really need one, and maybe I'd like to look good in a video for once. So, we're here again to talk about the one and only Barbie and her illustrious film career. If you were to ask any run-of-the-mill person what the first Barbie movie is, they'll probably either say, "Who are you? Will you please stop talking to me about Barbie movies?" Or they might say Barbie and the Nutcracker. And that answer is technically correct. It was the first feature-length Barbie film. The very first animated Barbie special actually dates back to 1987, which aired on TV as Barbie and the Rockers Out of This World. It was based, obviously, on the Barbie and the Rockers doll line, which, if you don't know, that particular line is kind of infamous because it's very much one of the biggest examples of, Mattel's aggressive tactics when it comes to marketing and monopolizing the doll market. So the story kind of goes like this. 1986 saw the release of Jem and the Holograms, a doll line and companion animated series that was considered pretty big competition for Mattel. It featured the concept of the main characters all being in a rock band together, going on adventures, to award shows, starring in movies, feuding with rival bands. It's one of my favorite cartoons, actually. It's just pure, delicious 80s camp goodness. The music was phenomenal, and the dolls are all really lovely too. However, Jem dolls were a big competition for Mattel, especially since they had the backing of a cartoon behind them, which the 80s were also the era of Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, these toys that proved that cartoons made great advertisements. When Mattel got wind of this, they went to work and rushed out a similar line in production, which would become Barbie and the Rockers. Their intention was to get this line on shelves before Jem debuted so that in the public's eyes, Jem would be the ones who were copying, not Mattel. And there's some other unsubstantiated parts of the story, like how supposedly Mattel employees illegally obtained packaging for a Jem doll from a trade show, and that was used to design the line. But these claims are, of course, unverified. According to the CEO of Mattel at the time, however, and the Jem Resource website, Totally Jem, Barbie and the Rockers only spent around 4 months in production, when normally they would spend around 18 months for a doll. So, as you can imagine, Mattel wanted a piece of the animated pie too, so they worked together with Deke Animation and Saban Productions to create Barbie and the Rockers Out of This World. Also the sequel that it aired alongside Barbie and the Sensations Rockin' Back to Earth. As far as I can tell, these were to serve as a pilot to what would become a Barbie animated series, but that fell through and was unfortunately never realized. And although it's technically the first Barbie movie, it's usually left out in the broader topic of conversation about Barbie movies, either because people don't know about it, or just because it doesn't fit into the neat little list of all the annual Barbie movies that people usually think about when they think Barbie movies. So, I was aware of this film's existence. Obviously, it's a pretty important part of Barbie's history. However, I never watched it. I just never got around to it, I guess. And maybe the Jem fan in me just refused to give in. But can I really call myself a Barbie fan if I've never watched the very first Barbie movie? Well, yes, I could. But I figured it was time to finally get around to it and share this interesting experience with you guys. We'll go through both movies too, since they're kind of a package deal anyways. So the film starts with a concert by the ubiquitous Barbie and the Rockers, and a voiceover explaining just how popular they are.
No question about it, Barbie and the Rockers are the biggest, hottest sensation in rock history!
They are, to quote, the hottest group in the history of the world. Apparently Barbie has won literally every single music award. She sells out in every single country that she performs in, illustrated in the only way an 80s animated feature can do, by featuring an audience full of ethnic stereotypes. But of course, because she's so beloved all around the world, Barbie is named the first Goodwill Ambassador for World Peace. So she's out selling all your faves, like literally. I don't think anyone else in the world even listens to another band. I think Barbie and the Rockers is all they have now. So Barbie has just finished this amazing world tour, and now everyone wants to know, what will she do next? How can she possibly top this? We just don't know. In the meantime, she goes to this restaurant that is literally in the sky. Don't ask. And we meet the rest of the band. There's Ken, of course. It was very adorable in this movie, I have to say. And then there's Dee Dee, Diva, Dana, and Derek. But they're not Barbie, so don't worry too much about them. And so the band is all wondering what they're going to do next, too. So Barbie does what Barbie does and breaks out into a song about how they're all best friends, which doesn't answer the question at all, but they still have fun doing their choreo in the middle of the restaurant, so it's okay. And it's at this point I have to point out that the animation in this is pretty solid. I really wish I could have found it higher quality, but I think all that really exists of this movie now are either TV recordings or rips of the later VHS releases. But especially the dancing and such is really smooth, and that's good because there's a lot of dancing. This isn't really so much a movie as it is a collection of songs with some plot tenuously strung between them. So then they go home the next morning, where Barbie gets an invitation to a ball hosted in her honor by the World Peace Organization. And it was at this point that I was kind of realizing that Barbie's actress has the exact same cadence and tone in literally every line she reads, no matter the context, and it's just kind of funny whenever she has two different lines, one right after the other.
I can't believe it. We danced all night. Who could that be? Oh my, what an honor. And a ball. It's just like out of a fairy tale. Oh, Ken, will you be my Prince Charming?
Anyways, there's another musical number. This one is about dancing, except Barbie very pointedly doesn't dance and just kind of bobs her head throughout it. Apparently this is a cover of a Beatles song, but dare I say Barbie did it better.
Is everything I need before this dance is through? I think I love you too. I'm so happy when you dance with me.
So then we go to the ball, where no one is dancing and instead is focusing their attention solely on Barbie and commenting about how beautiful she is. She goes to the conductor and whispers to him for an uncomfortable amount of time before announcing to the crowd that Barbie and the Rockers, in a dedication to world peace, will be performing their very first concert in outer space. And then she just leaves, and her entire band is like, what? Outer space? How on earth are we gonna do that? So, at no point did Barbie consult with her band, or literally anyone else about this idea of hers. She just wants to go to outer space, and by God, they're gonna make it happen for her. So, yes, this movie really is just a love letter to Barbie's unbridled narcissism, and maybe I'm kind of here for it. Another musical sequence. This one is a montage of Barbie and the band preparing to go to space, set to a cover of Do You Believe in Magic, and her unveiling of the pink branded Barbie rocket that they'll be taking into space, that Barbie is piloting, because of course she is. Which brings us to another musical sequence, which is just Barbie and her friends kind of experiencing outer space in the most 80s way you can imagine, set to probably the best song in the movie.
There's only one cure. You gotta keep reaching for the stars. Doesn't matter who you are.
They reach a space station where Barbie, in her unchallenged despotism, has demanded that all the scientists working there forget whatever unimportant work or research they were doing before and help her set up for her space concert. They go on TV there in space. Barbie declares it to be the first day of world peace and performs a song. And the animation in this portion is like weirdly sinister. They cover Barbie in complete shadow as she just spells out the word peace and broadcasts it to presumably the entire Earth. It's just kind of dystopian, isn't it? The last line is Barbie saying, "Today is the first day of world peace. If we all want it enough, it won't be the last." And then it just abruptly ends. Credits roll. So how many wars have there been since 1987? But, of course, as I mentioned, there's technically a sequel, Barbie and the Sensations Rockin' Back to Earth. And it picks up right where we left off, the band is still in space, reeling from their experience being the first ever to perform a concert in outer space. Something happens, I don't know what, but upon re-entering Earth's atmosphere, the group travels back in time to 1959, which, a very significant year in Barbie history. That's when she first debuted, in our timeline, I mean. Thankfully, the American military does not shoot down Barbie's now unidentified flying machine as they land back on Earth, and they meet this man and his daughter. This guy builds rockets or something, and they ask him for help getting back to their time, to which he literally says, "Oh, we can talk about that later," and tells his young daughter to show these strangers from outer space around town. So, since they have no other pressing matters to attend to, they go off shopping for new clothes, and buy a car, then to a malt shop to dance and sing in another musical sequence. And because Barbie wasn't content just being the biggest star on Earth and presumably the leader of the New World Order in her own time, she goes on to become a huge celebrity in 1959 as well, and apparently personally ushers in the new age of space travel.
I can't wait to get out there in space. But I don't want to miss your concert either, Barbie.
The rocket guy from earlier tells Barbie that he knows how to get them back to their time. I'm not sure how much time has passed at this point, and something about the position of the planets and the chords they played, I don't know. But the planets are going to be aligned again during her concert at Cape Canaveral, so she also has an emotional goodbye with the random little girl that she bonded with. They get back in the rocket in the middle of the concert and get transported back to their own time. I guess leaving the audience and the entire world to assume that they just got into a rocket and died somewhere out in space. But they make it home just in time to play one more song, revealing that in the audience is that little girl from 1959, now all grown up in there with her daughter. She says Barbie is her favorite, and the movie leaves us on yet another ominous line.
Barbie's everybody's favorite for all time.
That, my friends, was the first Barbie movie, or movies, I guess. If you haven't watched these, you're probably thinking like, that's it? Surely you must be leaving something out, which, no, I'm really not. The plots are exactly that. Barbie wants to go to space. Barbie goes to space. Barbie travels back in time, does as Barbie does, comes back. There you go. Are there some additional elements of dystopian science fiction horror? Possibly. They're fun, though. They're fun pieces of Barbie history. They're definitely like peak Barbie, especially peak 80s Barbie. I'm making fun of them, but it comes from a place of love. A love for Barbie and all her narcissism and tyranny. Because I, for one, would love to live under the Barbie world order. But I can definitely see why these weren't necessarily picked up for syndication. I do wonder how it would have gone. I mean, they already sent my girl to space. What else was there left for her to do? But if you've ever actually seen these movies, let me know what you think of them. If you haven't seen them, go watch them and then tell me what you think. Would you have tuned in if it became a cartoon? Are you a Geminator or are you firmly a Barbie rocker? Let me know. And then when you're done with that, be sure to like and subscribe for any future Fashion Doll content. Thank you.